I was sitting by myself in the gym in the middle of the basketball court, realizing that I just threw everything away. I didn't have anybody to turn to. I didn't have a dad to run to. I couldn't go tell my mom. The story is a story of grace, of God's salvation, and I'm just grateful that I have the opportunity to share today. It's been a long road, but it's been a great one. And through it all, I know that God has been with me. I should start off by saying that nobody in my family was a Christian. Nobody in my family was born again, or there was no word of Jesus in anything, no Bible, no nothing, ever since I was a kid. To my knowledge, there's nobody in my family who is a born again believer in Jesus. And so, that's my starting point. Over 20 years ago, I walked into this church, and I just did it to get somebody off my back. Those Christian people who just, they don't hound you, but they just, you should come to church. And he played trumpet in the band here. I was like, okay, you know what? Just stop bothering me. I will come, and I'm never coming back. That was over 20 years ago, and I'm still here. Now I'm on staff here. And that's what God has done. And, prior to all of this, prior to me being where I am right now, I wasn't a horrible person, but I wasn't in a good place. All those years ago, I grew up without any kind of religion, any kind of discipline, any kind of thing, anything like that. My dad left our family when we were not very young, but I was just about to turn 13 years old. My brother is a little bit younger than me. So my dad decided to leave, and, he sat us down at the table, just him, my mom wasn't there. And he just said, boys, sometimes people fall out of love. I was old enough at that time to understand where that was going. I don't know if my brother was, but, and then, everything just kind of started falling apart from there. My dad was Superman to me. If in this case, like Jesus, he was my hero. He was everything to me. He was big, he was strong. He had a great job. He was perfect in my eyes, but little did I know there was issues behind the scene. And so, my mom was left, after an attempt by him to raise us, my mom was left to raise two boys, going into teenage years by herself. And while she did a fantastic job, obviously it came with its struggles. We grew up in a bad neighborhood. We had good friends to us, but obviously of the wrong influence. And so me in particular, we got into a lot of trouble and just, got into a lot of fights and, stealing and all of these kinds of things. And it just wasn't, the trajectory wasn't a good one. It was a downward spiral type of thing. And while all of this was happening at the same time, I was also pursuing a basketball scholarship at school. I just started getting looked in my last senior year of basketball. And so I started getting some people looking at me and being interested in me, sending me letters and all of this amazing stuff that was exciting. But in the background, I'm living this life of destruction. And really, once I started getting wind of scholarships, and I'm not saying I was the most amazing basketball player, but good enough to get looks, all I could think about was, I'm gonna help my mom. I'm gonna help my mom get out of this neighborhood. Get out of this life. At various points in our neighborhood, my mom sitting outside of our house waiting for my dad to come in the car, someone shot out the back window. My brother has been shot at, they mistook him for me. I just wanted to help my mom. And so that's what I was trying to do my last year in basketball. I had already graduated, and I had found out there was a little bit of a loophole that I could get back into school. And if I did OACs, I didn't have the grades. I wasn't able to do OAC, if anybody who knows what that is. Grade 13 in high school in my day. I didn't have the grades, so some strings were pulled, and eventually I got back into school for a 6th year. Don't judge me. And that's all I was there for. Everybody knew that that's what I was there for, to get this scholarship. Everybody knew that I was there running that school at the time. But in the background, I was still getting into trouble. And in a separate occasion, they were doing what they called a cleansing of our school, and they decided that they were going to get rid of some students who were causing trouble. And I have stopped going to class. I was only there for basketball. Everybody knew it. So the principal pulled me into the office and he said, listen, you graduated last year already. We're going to let you play this last home game. This was halfway through the ball season. But after this game, you're done. You can't come here anymore. Obviously, my grades and everything were horrible, and I wasn't going to school. I was just playing ball. That last game, I played the game of my life. Just the best game I've ever played. But at the end of it, I was sitting by myself in the gym in the middle of the basketball court, realizing that I just threw everything away. I didn't have anybody to turn to. I didn't have a dad to run to. I couldn't go tell my mom. And so life outside of school was taking over. I didn't go into college. I just got a job at a factory in a warehouse and started working, making some good money. And then the day came, I was watching the NBA draft that year, and a guy got drafted. His name is Jamal McGlure. I used to play against Jamal. In fact, the reason I got chose, or I started getting looks, was because of the way I played against him. And he was just dominating everybody. And so I sat there and watched him get drafted, and I was like, what's happening with my life? I'm just watching this all happen, people going into the NBA. And anyway, I just knew I had to get my life back on track. At this point, the person that I mentioned earlier was still by my side. He was my best friend and telling me about church and this and that. And so I did eventually go to church. And as you know, as I mentioned, I accepted Jesus that day. I walked down the front all by myself. I was having that out-of-body experience, telling myself, like, where are you going? What are you doing? Like, don't do this. And it's just a bunch of people I don't know walked down to the front 20 years ago in my home church and accepted Jesus. And everything changed. Everything changed. I met my wife here. I've had my kids here. I've been married here. I volunteered here. I've given my blood, sweat, and tears to this church, and not just to the church, but to the gospel, because I believe in spreading the message. And now I'm on staff here by the grace of God. I don't deserve anything that I have in this life. I deserve nothing. I've taken so much from people, done so much wrong, and to be a person who benefits with so much good, I don't deserve it, any piece of it at all. And yet here I am. All those years ago when I accepted Jesus, my life didn't change right away. It didn't just change on the drop of a dime, or it was still hard. I still struggled, and things still transpired. I was still getting into trouble here and there, but by the grace of God, I survived, and He carried me through. The poem Footsteps, where, you looked back and you only saw one pair of footprints. It wasn't mine, it was God's. It was Jesus who changed my life and carried me through and brought me to this day. I'm extremely honored to be able to share just a little piece of what God has done in my life. And you heard from my wife in one of the other videos, and some of my friends, people who I've grown up with here and accepted Jesus here. And I don't know, no, correction, I do know what would have happened. I would have been dead. As a matter of fact, I share with you that on my 25th birthday, I sat down on the edge of my bed. And you know, 25 is a big one, a quarter of a century. Like that's a party of all parties. I was saved, but still in the world. And like, you know, you got to have a party, go to the club. I was in the club all the time and just, but on my 25th birthday, I sat on the edge of my bed crying, just crying. Because prior to that, I never dreamed I would reach 25 years old. I never planned for it. I never thought I would get that far. That's just the life that we lived, you know, with all the violence and all of the craziness around in our lives. I just never thought I would make it that far. And now I'm 45 years old. I've made it this far, and it's only by the grace of God. And I will be, if God never does another thing for me, ever again in life, I will still die a happy man, with a beautiful wife, with beautiful children, an incredible job, and an incredible church with incredible friends. And it's all because Jesus saved me.